Hello and welcome to Issues and Insights, the show that keeps you up to date on everything going on in our community. I'm your host, Kendra Scott, and appreciate you tuning in today. As we know, the holiday season is in full swing, and while it's a very festive time of celebration and getting together with family and friends, we have a very serious topic to talk about today. During the holidays, we think about happy children and presents and gifts and all the fun and activities that they have. And while we are counting our blessings, we also have to be mindful of children in need and the blessing that our community has in the form of CASA, which stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates. Not every child has a super happy Christmas with all the trimmings. So here to talk about the challenges that our children might face in this community and the wonderful work that CASA does is the CASA of the Heartland Executive Director, Ms. Norma Hatfield, and we are so glad to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to see you and talk to you again. So, of course, we have to let folks know, we hear the acronym CASA, so tell us exactly what CASA is and how it got started here in Hardin County.
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit. There are actually CASA programs across the state of Kentucky. We serve Hardin County, the Fort Knox area, Hardin County and Fort Knox. These are children that are in the family court system. And most of them have been abused and neglected here in our community, unfortunately. We recruit, we train, we support volunteers so that they can be an advocate voice for these children while their case is in the system and they're going through everything, trying to get to a permanent safe home.
Wow, and sometimes this advocate is the one champion in that child's corner, is that correct?
Yes, you know, you got to stop and think. Children change foster homes in our community at least 3 times. That's pretty traumatic. Just the fact being removed, whatever it is that they've gone through, then they go into, 3 different foster homes or more. That's changing schools, that's changing friends. It's hard to kind of settle in. And then you've got this court case going on where they're trying to determine where are you going to go next? How is your life going to kind of, where is that path going to go? And social workers change, therapists change, doctors change, especially when they're changing, homes and communities and things. And that CASA volunteer stays with that child through the life of the case. Wow. It's that one constant person that they know is going to call, going to check on them, that they can talk with and share. And they know that that's going to be shared with the judge as well.
That's awesome. And so how long could that be that a child could be linked with this important volunteer?
Cases are running somewhere around 18 months to 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. Some of it is just they're complicated. They're really complicated situations. For a judge to assign a CASA, they're the more worrisome, the more complex cases. But our volunteers stay true to these kids. They establish that relationship. And we have volunteers a lot of times that, after the case is closed, they're still meeting with them. They're going to graduations. They're seeing them when they're going to college. It's pretty amazing. It's life-changing. It really is.
Well, it has to be. You can't invest that much time in a child and not want to see how it plays out, not develop that bond and still want to be a part of their lives. So that makes perfect sense. Yeah. And sadly, Kentucky ranks in the top in many things in the world. Of course, we know we're the home of bourbon and horse racing and all of that. But we also we rank very high in abuse and in neglect. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I hate to talk to this number. For several years, we were number 1 across the nation in abuse and neglect. And this past year, we were ranked number 5 in the top 5. I think the number's going to shift back closer to number 1. I think COVID, the numbers are a little skewed because kids weren't in school.
Sure.
That's just my personal
opinion. Cases
opinion.
Weren't getting reported.
Yeah, but still, being in the top 10, much less the top 5, is pretty sad. And, it's the same thing we saw trends in Hardin County for several years where we had the highest rate of family court petitions, per our size for our county than others across the Commonwealth. It's just sad to think this is happening right here. These are the kids that go to our schools, that go to our church, that are playing with our kids. They've been through terrible stuff, and you just hate to think that's happening.
You really do. What do you attribute a lot of it to?
The primary things that I see are drug abuse, substance abuse. I'm going to put it more there. It could be alcohol, but mostly we see drugs.
Yeah, that's the sad part. Oh my goodness. So So we find that, and we're so great to share a lot of information with us. So what are some of the studies and results that show a child, what is some of the positive outcomes a child that goes through CASA?
Yeah, so, as I mentioned a moment ago, it's complicated for a child, and they're bouncing around. But what we've seen is that if you have a CASA volunteer, kids do better in school. They just have better outcomes. What we work to do, and the courts do as well, is that we want to see a child end up in a permanent, safe, loving home. That's the final outcome.
Yes.
Now, a lot of times they go back to their family, which is always great.
Sure.
But we're helping make recommendations to the courts on things to get them to that. Sometimes they end up going to foster care, and hopefully we see them adopted. We do see that, off and on. And it's about, when you stop and think, so all these people are changing around. So a volunteer comes in, and then, they change schools. That's why they do better in school, because the volunteer is then going, okay, I'm going to go to the school. I'm going to talk to your teachers. I'm going to talk to the staff. I'm going to, make sure that I know you're doing okay. And they're looking for those things that the system is too busy for. Do we start seeing some issues where there might need to be a little more counseling? So we make that recommendation to the court. Or are the grades starting to drop? What's going on here? And then they might go talk to the foster parent or the caregiver that they have and start trying to look into some of those things and help identify those as quickly as they can. And then again, just talking to the child.
Oh, sure.
What's really going on and how do you feel? And that's where you kind of get to the point of what is the real problem here that we need to fix to make things just a little better for you.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. How many children are currently in the program?
Well, there's two parts to that. Right now we're serving about 125 kids.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot, and that's kids here in our community. And then we have a wait list of kids that need a volunteer, and that right now the number is 89.
Yeah, let's talk about the empty chair there that you brought. That is absolutely so powerful, such a statement. And it's a tiny little chair because it represents tiny people that need our support. But if the camera will catch on that. But tell us what the empty chair represents.
Yeah, so it's a child's chair, and it represents the children that we can't show you the faces. We can't tell you their names because we have to protect their privacy.
That's right.
But they're there. They need somebody. So that chair is about a child that is waiting on a volunteer for a CASA.
Wow.
And it's empty. And we need folks to come in and be those advocate volunteers and get that wait list down. That's what's really sad. Think about this. So a judge, as I mentioned, assigns a child to a CASA volunteer because they're the worrisome cases, the more complex.
Yes.
So there's 89 kids out there that are still waiting, that have those complex cases, that are moving around from foster home to foster home, changing schools, and they don't have that one constant.
Yeah.
And that's what's so important, and that's why I bring that chair with me.
That's right. Take it everywhere you go.
I pretty much do. It has its own little car seat, a little seat belt.
That's adorable. Don't lose the little blue chair.
Yeah.
But it's so impactful for people to see that and think of that. So you need at least 89 strong, good volunteers that want to do that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I really think the numbers are going to go right back up.
I'm sure.
We got it down at one point. They were over 100. Wow. And we had more folks step in and, took on cases. But the kids, I hate this, the kids just keep coming into the system. Yeah. And we just need somebody to give a few hours a month of their time for them.
That's it. Okay. So talk a little bit about what it takes to be a CASA volunteer.
First, you have to have the heart.
Right.
And, you have to have that compassion, that passion for service. And, that's what's so great about all the folks in the community. I mean, the volunteers that we have right now, they have those kinds of traits. But on top of that, you have to be 21 or older. Okay. You have to pass a background check that we do because we want to keep our kids safe.
Heavens, yes.
Then we have a pre-service training. It's volunteer training. We actually have a class coming up in January.
Oh, perfect.
If folks are interested. we would love for them to contact us, and we will get them in. It's a virtual training, so you can do it from home.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, yeah. And so the class is it's about 30 hours, and it's stretched across 6 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a couple hours a week.
Oh, that's
but when you complete that training, then we work with you to assign you to a case, and you go and you visit with a child. We'll go with you, because I know that's a little scary.
Oh, sure.
In itself, because you're thinking about the situation with a child, and I can tell you, I trained as a volunteer first, and I know that feeling.
Oh,
and
sure.
So we will go with you and walk you through some of that, and then tell you about your notes that you're going to take and how you're going to put a court report together for the visit.
Oh,
but after you complete that 30 hours of training, in general, we're looking at somewhere between 2 and 8 hours a month.
Okay, that's not bad at all.
It's not bad. And it depends on the case. When you first start out and you're getting to know the child and you're meeting all the different people, you're going to spend a little bit more time.
Yes.
But then once you kind of get that down, and then it's just a visit with a child, and then doing your court report, it's not so bad.
No.
But in general, the requirements are you have to do a visit with a child every 30 days, within 30 days. You can do more, but you have to at least visit every 30 days.
And I would think that people would be invested and would do much more than that, not just once a month. They're like, no, maybe once a week or every few days or so, because they really want to know what's going on. A lot can happen in 30 days.
Well, and if a child moves,
then
you're going to want to go back and do another visit, check out their the new place that they're living, and then kind of assess the situation and make your notes and make that recommendation if there's a recommendation. Sometimes you're just saying things are going great.
Yay.
Yeah, and that's good.
That's very good. That's really what you want to hear.
Yeah.
So good deal. And so how do folks volunteer? Can they sign up online? Do they need to call the office, stop by and visit in person? What's the process?
Any and all.
Oh, okay. Good. I guess correctly.
Yeah, so you can come to our office. We're on 580 Westport Road, 8 to 4:30. Now, our hours later this month are going to be a little different. We've got some stuff on social media on that we're going to put on our website. But in general, Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30, 580 Westport Road. We're on the back side of the building facing the bypass.
Okay.
And we have a sign on the outside of the door. But you can call us, 270-982-2274.
Okay.
We also have an answering machine if you call after hours. You can go to our social media for CASA of the Heartland, or go to our website, casaheartland.org, and go to the volunteer tab. We also have videos from our current volunteers and past volunteers.
Oh, nice.
And then you can just listen to those and kind of get a better feel for the impact that you're going to make.
That's wonderful. And I'm so glad that you mentioned videos, because earlier this year you had an opportunity to talk with Attorney General Daniel Cameron, Hardin County native.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit how that went and what happened.
That was exciting.
I bet.
Yeah. That was super, super exciting. He is so down to earth. We had the press, they all wanted to come in and stuff, and he was so wonderful. He wanted just some time for us just to specifically talk about the program very candidly. So we closed off a lot of the media, the reporters, and that was to me the best part, because that's where I could really share the emotional piece as far as what's happening with the kiddos. He wants to help in any way he's conveyed that, and then right afterwards he did a video for us.
Yay.
Asking for volunteers in our community and across the state. It was just a really nice, down-to-earth visit. He promised to come back.
Good.
We're going to hold him to that.
Good.
But yeah, he just, just sitting down and sharing with him what's happening in the county, And one of the things I shared with him was, we talked about how the kids are bouncing around, sometimes 3 foster homes or more. But the other trend that we're seeing right now is there's not enough foster homes. And so the kids at times are getting shipped outside of our county.
Oh gosh.
And that's a little harder for the kids, because they're not, at least they're in somewhat surroundings. They know where the Kroger is, they know where the mall is, things like that. And so that's even more scary.
Yeah.
But it's a little more challenging for our volunteers and for our program as well, because sometimes you have to drive a little further than, to Radcliffe, as an example.
Sure.
And so there was a bigger problem besides what was just going on here, is we also need more foster homes. So he took lots of notes.
Good.
And for me, that's always a good sign. If they're personally taking the notes, then that means they're thinking it through. So he did do that. It was just a very, very nice, down-to-earth visit.
That's wonderful. Well, and you've had some heavy hitters in the past, because you had First Lady Bashir in 2021 to do a video. So you've obviously made these great connections.
Yeah,
we try. To get people to support.
Yeah, we really want to try to connect with people that have influence, that can help change things. And that's exactly what Mrs. Bashir did. In that particular case, the COVID numbers, she was coming in to our office, and the COVID numbers started really going up. And so we had to do that virtually. In some aspects, that gave us more time with her.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so take advantage of whatever you can.
That's right.
Because then she had more time on her calendar instead of driving down here.
Yes.
But same thing. She's just very passionate about helping the children in Kentucky. And she said the same thing. She said, "What can I do for you?" Oh. And so, first
Here's
thing
our
was,
list.
So the first thing was, well, can you help us get the word out? And so she offered to do the video, and it came right back really quickly. And it was very powerful. And the same thing, it was, she followed up afterwards, her and her staff, as far as the numbers and what was going on. And it's so exciting when you get people that have that level of influence and that are so busy, and they still give you their time.
That's wonderful. That shows their true heart.
Yeah.
And that they're in the right place at the right time. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. Well, we talked a little bit about, obviously, from the volunteer perspective and what they feel they've gained from it. What about the kids? Do you hear from the kids and they talk about their CASA volunteer or how important it was? What impact has been made on their lives?
Wow. If we go on a visit with the volunteer, that's where we really get that connection. I did that recently this summer, and we actually had to travel to Bowling Green. I think that this particular child was about to be adopted.
Oh, good news.
And so we wanted to go down there before that, make sure everything was really good, and just bring her some goodies and things like that. We had some sketch pads and stuff that actually the Rotary Club had donated.
Oh, fantastic. Good job, Rotarians.
Yes, and so we kind of gave her some of those things, and it was just very positive. It makes you cry. And it's one of those where I don't cry when I'm in the moment, but then I get in the car and I'm with a staff member, and you're like, waterworks. But it was a good cry. It's just so good to know that you made a difference, and that's what our volunteers see every day. Is you see their face, you hear their voice, you hear their heart, you hear them cry over things that are bad and traumatic, and you watch them heal. And then you see them go and get adopted, and hopefully a very happy life, and just great things in the future to come for them. We did a mural recently. I'm so proud of this. Probably one of the last things before I leave.
Yes.
But our volunteers, we got a grant, and we did these canvases about like this. I'm going to say about 8 by 10, and our volunteers took some paint, and the kiddos put their handprints. And it's all different colors, all different sizes of, the paint, and some of them wanted to go sideways because they just didn't want to be like everybody else. We have one, I don't know if it's up on the wall right now, but we've got some that we're going to do down the wall later on. And some of them said, "I'm just doing this."
Okay.
And they went sideways.
Abstract, I love it.
And it was, "I'm just not your normal."
Yeah.
I'm not going to stay in the lines. I'm not going to do that. And it's like, you do what you feel you want to do. But the exciting thing about it was that when you come into our office and you look in the lobby, here's this big mural. So it's just another thing like the empty chair.
Yes.
We can't show you their faces, but these kids, they left an imprint on the wall and on our hearts. And they are here, and generations to come, they're not forgotten.
That's right. They're real people. They're not just numbers and statistics and cases and court numbers. They're children.
Yeah.
And what are the ages you serve? How young are some of the children in the program?
Birth to 18.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's It's sad to think that
Exactly.
a child being born and right away they're in the system and they've gone through some things they
Yes.
shouldn't go through. But birth to 18, and we have, from time to time, we have somebody that's 18 and the system chooses to keep them in a little bit longer.
Okay.
And that's a good thing for, depending on the situation. So sometimes they might be a little bit, but in general, it's birth to 18.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you find there's a majority? Is it more elementary school children or more middle school, older?
It varies because the numbers and the cases are constantly changing, but I'm going to say that a bulk of them are probably more teens, some of them 12 to 17.
Okay.
And then we do have, I think the second group is probably more the elementary school.
Okay. Good deal. Do you find you have more happy endings?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, that's why I love this job.
Yes.
I think it's the best job in the world, being a volunteer, being, a staff member doing this, because we do get to see the outcomes, and you hope they stay that way.
Yes.
But you get to kind of help them navigate that system, because that system is very, very complex, and it's slow.
Right.
And there's a reason for it to be slow, because you don't want to rush and make any decisions without giving it all the attention and the options and the opportunities there before something becomes final. But yeah, so knowing that we played a part in this to help these kids, it's just something. It's a legacy for me. That I'll have for the rest of my life.
Exactly. And you have an incredible staff. As we talked about, you're a nonprofit, so you're small but mighty.
Yeah.
But your staff does a lot. So if you'll talk just a brief second about them and all the different components of the CASA team.
Yeah. So Patty Mayhew, we'll start with her.
Yes, a lot of people know her from Hardin County Schools.
Yeah, she is the person that if you call and say, I'm interested in being a volunteer, she's the person that's going to reach back out to you and talk to you a little bit more, makes you understand it, help you get the paperwork. She's pretty much the trainer.
Okay.
She's our lead trainer, and she does an amazing job. And bless her heart, not only do we do a class, let's say for this one in January, depending on the class, if she needs to do two, somebody's better at lunchtime, and that's when they want to do their training, she will do that. And if somebody else needs an evening, she's not going to let anybody walk away.
That's great. Patty doesn't take no for an answer.
No. And so, I don't want to minimize their job. There's a lot more to it. But if you look at a lot of the staff, that's kind of the big roles that they have. And then we've got Amy Hollingsworth. She's a volunteer manager. So if you become an advocate, you might be talking to Amy, and she would work with you on your cases. And then she also helps us some on the business side. I mean, we have to get these tax letters out for the people, wonderful, wonderful people that make donations.
Sure.
And we have a lot of other paperwork that we have to do.
Administrative stuff.
And Natalie Curtis, she was formerly Natalie Covey. She got married this summer.
She did. Our sweet Natalie.
Yeah, she says somewhat the same thing as Amy does. So she helps on the business side, but she's also an advocate volunteer manager. And then we have Larry Ho. Larry's a volunteer. He's a longtime volunteer.
Okay.
But he does some stuff for us part-time.
Awesome.
And so he actually helps the rest of the staff if they've got court papers. A big one that he does is our database, where we have all our cases in and our volunteers and things like that. So he helps us pull a lot of reports. But they all work together. We're doing fundraising because we've got, as a nonprofit, we have to bring money in to work our program, but we're also doing a lot of outreach and advocacy and supporting our volunteers.
That's great. And of course you have a board of directors because you are a nonprofit. So those are the folks that I know are often tasked with helping with fundraising and events and spreading the word. So it's a wonderful organization, and we appreciate all that they do, because we know, again, it's a calling and it is a passion. So for folks that want to support in other ways, maybe they can't be a volunteer, what type of support can they lend?
Well, they can reach out to us and they can become a friend of CASA. This is something new that we've formally established. We had them before, but we actually gave them
now it's a title.
Yeah, and that's on our website as well. But that's where you can reach out and say, here's my talents, here's my gifts, here's what I can do. And then we will look at that, and then what we do is we put you with that. Like if you say, I want to help you with your next fundraiser, or I'm really good at decorating and things, or I can help stuff envelopes.
Sure.
You know, when we're doing our mailers and Christmas cards and things. Whatever that is, we'll look at that and then we'll reach out, make sure the timing is really good, and that's how you can help us.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And then, of course, just donors.
Right, yeah. There's the big one there, is that you can always make a financial contribution, and that supports the mission as well. So, again, non-profit, so they rely on that. So, so we have to talk about the transition. It was announced earlier this year that you are officially leaving CASA as the executive director after your time, and it's bittersweet, I know, but retirement is pending. But I know you've always got plans. So, first of all, we have to thank you for what you've done for CASA and being the voice and the advocate and the face of the organization and working so hard to put them on the map. But let's talk a little bit about what you have planned for the next chapter.
Yes, it was a hard decision. Even now, it's like, am I really going to let go? And the answer is yes. But I had been doing part-time advocacy. I'm raising my grandkids. They went into the system back in 2014, and things didn't work the way they should have. I will just say it was very complicated as well. And we got permanent sole custody of both of them. And as I went through the system, which was about 18 months before we got custody, I saw a lot of things, and I said, why? You know, that in some cases, for all the good things that were in place, there were just things I said, I don't think that needs to change. And I became a kinship care advocate because I found that for all the kids that are in Kentucky, I was kind of surprised. It's about 96,000 kids are living with relatives other than their biological parents, and a lot of them are grandparents.
Yes.
And they don't have a lot of resources. They're living on disability or Social Security, and they're taking in 5 kids, you know, at a later stage in their life, and their resources aren't there. So I became an advocate for them, and then it kind of grew. And so I do a lot of work at the national level trying to change the child welfare system, and I also do it locally and at the state level. So I plan to continue doing that part-time because there's just a lot of work that needs to be done still. And, you know, and then I want to have family time. And what made me make the decision was that, to leave CASA, was that my, of the 2 grandkids that I'm raising, the youngest just started high school.
Oh, yes. Critical.
And it just, this summer, it just really hit me that, you know, I need to put some more focus on them, and they're going to be out of the house in a couple of years, going to college, and then they sort of come back, but you know, they're off on their own. And I don't want to miss, you know, that time. And so I thought part-time advocacy, more full-time towards family. I have a grandson. He will be 3 in March, and he was born when the lockdowns for COVID. And so I don't get to see him very much because he lives in Denver. So I want to just have more opportunities to travel and see my grandkids because they're little, only for a little bit.
Oh, well, that is wonderful, and we wish you all the very, very, very best. Our time is running short. It goes by so fast when we get to talking, so we can't thank you enough for what you've done, what CASA does. We encourage anyone interested in volunteering or supporting, please check out the website, stop by their beautiful office, see the mural, contact them by phone, but give your support any way that you can. It will greatly be appreciated. So we thank Norma. We thank her team. We thank them all for what they do for CASA. And we especially thank you for tuning in today, and hopefully you learned a whole lot more and you'll make that commitment to help when you can. So on behalf of HCEC-TV, I'm Kendra Scott. Hope you have a wonderful, safe, healthy, and happy holiday season. Merry Christmas to you and yours, and we'll see you next time.